We got lambs.
Yeah. Teachers are like, right, I'm going to count down from 3. When I get to 1, you're all staying in behind at lunch. 3, 2, 1. Oh, you're all staying in. All right, mate, calm down.
The conclusion of whether ear defenders are beneficial or not. When is life considered life? When is a baby considered a human?
Well, no parent ever feels ready. Nobody's 100% okay and ready to have kids and fully understand what's going to go on.
No.
I didn't.
Who's defining that their life is less valuable than anyone else's life?
I just pray that people will have a reverence for life and will be able to feel the Spirit testify to them of how precious God's children are to them.
Abortion is wrong. There should be no difference between an unborn baby and a baby that has been born.
Whoa, don't go anywhere before you leave. Please, can you like and subscribe and put any comments below? We really appreciate it. Helps with the algorithms to juice us up. So yeah, like and subscribe and comment. Thanks. Now on to the episode.
Hello, and welcome to the Here We Raise podcast.
It's a bit of a tongue twister. Can you say that 5 times really quick?
Here We Raise podcast. No, I can't even say it once. Feels like it's been ages since we've done one.
I know, it's lovely light evenings now. The world has moved on.
Yes.
You may notice that I've got some lovely light shining up on my face. No, we haven't upgraded our lighting rigs. No, it's not because it's light outside. It's because my creamy white thighs are out and I've got shorts on. And the light's reflecting nicely.
I thought you were going to
chin.
say something about catching a tan or something.
I don't know if I've got a tan. A little bit.
Your freckles have connected more.
Yeah, look. Listen to this one.
To be fair, I've put fake tan on, so this ain't even real.
We got some new additions to the family very recently, didn't we, Alex? No, don't be doing that. Making me panic.
We got lambs.
Yeah.
We got flipping orphan lambs. We got lambs.
We did.
I'm really surprised that we did, because I don't know how many people watch this and actually follow us on social media as well, but we did one of those little TikTok trend things and it was all about me wanting to get some orphan lambs because I'm broody. It was just a joke. But we end up actually getting some orphan lambs and it has literally been the best thing ever. I feel complete. It has been so much fun.
It has been good fun. For the last, 6 weeks, Alex has just been dropping hints left, right and centre and she's not been subtle.
No.
It's been as far as, Alex, what do you fancy for dinner? James, buy me some lambs. Right, okay. Or we could be driving in the car, someone cuts in front of us, does a really stupid move. Oh, what are they doing, Alex? Silly drivers. Oh, James, this would all be so much better if we just had some lambs.
It has literally been like that. But I just thought it'd be really cool. It's like spring time of year and how great it's been for the kids. It has been so good for the kids. Like bottle feeding them and everything. It's been such a cool experience. I've never even bottle fed a lamb before. I'd never done it until we got the lambs.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love it.
It is quite a fun experience and they're super keen, aren't they?
Really keen.
Makes me feel really sorry for their mums.
I know.
When they've got a mum, because gosh, they don't hold back, do they?
I know. So we got two. But well, the first ones we got were a boy and a girl. I don't know. I could say correct terms, but can't bother. Boy and a girl, and the mum had died, so that's why we got those. And then the other 2 that we got were because their mums were like, it was like teenage pregnancies. That's how it was explained to us anyway. So they had twins, and they usually separate one child and keep one child with the mum because it's easier on the mum. So they were the other 2 that we bought as well. But yeah, how is like getting a lamb like so much cheaper than getting a dog?
Yeah, they were, the first 2 we got I think were free, and then the next 2 were 10 quid each. Like I go to Pets at Home, a big UK retailer of pet stuff here, and it's like 50 quid for a rabbit, or like what, $70?
Yeah, but
and it's 10 quid or like not even $15 for a lamb.
It's crazy, but yeah, it's been really, really cool. I've really enjoyed having them, and it feels like, we're becoming more of a small holding.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know when do you class as even being a small holding, but now we've got 24 chickens and 4 lambs. That's pretty good.
They're so noisy.
Oh yeah.
When they want milk, they're like.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny as well is that our youngest, so a 1-year-old, she's noticed now that if they go bah, she just turns around and goes back to them. Meh. She literally copies them, and they have this like back and forth, pretty much conversation. It's actually it's pretty cool. It's actually really funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really funny. She's almost like taunting them or teasing them.
It's like she's like the little echo.
We've got a new member of the photography family, haven't we? So stay tuned for some interesting new content that will be filmed on the new tool.
It is not a toy. Should we just tell them what it is?
Yeah, we got a drone. So
we got a drone. You got a drone.
I found every excuse in the book to get one. Oh my word, it's been so much fun.
It's been really nice to see all the footage. It's nice to see things from like a higher perspective. It's almost like you feel like, especially where we live sort of in the middle of woodland, and it's been nice to see that point of view of like God's creation, like how beautiful it is and how small we seem in comparison to being so up high. I don't know, it's been a really cool experience. Well, we've only had it for a couple of days. Watch this space, try and show some of the footage that we've got on it, but yeah, pretty cool. Kickstarting the topics, I guess. We had a discussion, and we've had this discussion actually years ago, but we've sort of rediscussed it recently and thought it'd be interesting to talk about it on the podcast, was the conclusion of whether ear defenders are beneficial or not. We don't actually have the answer for this, but we thought it'd be good just to have a bit of a open conversation about it, because there's a lot of children and adults, I guess, that have autism or don't have autism, where ear defenders in environments that I guess can be louder, a bit more unsettling then, can be overstimulating, I guess. And it's quite a common accessory or tool that is used, I would say, in the sort of autistic community, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've seen quite a lot of autistic kids that I've come across. Quite a few of them, if I see them out and about, they'll probably have a set of ear defenders on.
I guess something that we were talking about was that's something that can be controlled, like by using your hands maybe as well, so not necessarily having to have ear defenders on. Now, something that we'd thought about, there was a few things actually, one of them being, if you've got a child that has got speech delay, like our child did have speech delay, having ear defenders on probably is going to prevent them from hearing words, which that was one of our concerns. And then thinking, well, does that mean that he's going to, I don't know, be less likely to progress in those situations when he is wearing the ear defenders?
Yeah, and to be honest as well, part of it I think was we didn't want him to be too overly reliant on having ear defenders on in every situation that perhaps, would push him a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, we didn't want to give him essentially a crutch that perhaps, in time, if we supported him, that he'd just, be able to manage and cope with that sort of stimulation on his own. And he did, didn't he? He did have, he still does it sometimes where he'll just cover his ears a little bit at the odd thing. He does it way less than he used to now. It's way less. But we decided to not use them, probably more so for the communication thing, wasn't it? Because I guess there's two levels to this, in that it's blocking sound, but what are you going to lose with the sound, the stimulation, and kind of hearing what people are saying clearly, at least. So like you said, the benefit of losing the stimulation, is that worth it for the loss of hearing what people are saying as easily? Yeah,
and when it's already being controlled fairly well, like he was managing absolutely fine using his hand. Like if we put a hat on him, he would be very... Now is a different story. This is talking years ago. If you'd put on a hat on him, it would be very unlikely that he would take that hat off unless you would take it off for him. And one of the concerns as well was that if we'd given him ear defenders, well, what if he just gets quite comfortable with that and actually wants to keep them on more than taking them off? Whereas when he was using his hands, it was more like, okay, it's a bit loud, or I feel a bit unsettled, or whatever, and he'd cover his ears. And then when he was fine, he'd just let go. And I was worried that if he had these, ear defenders on, that he wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, I'm going to physically take these off now and put them away, and I'll go and get them back and put them back on when I'm in a different environment. So I think that was the biggest reason why we didn't actually opt to even try, was because he was managing fine without them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess you could go another level as well in saying that, You know, as hard as it might be sometimes for children or adults to be in those environments that are a bit noisy, if they are in those environments less, or hearing the sort of natural sounds less, will they ever get used to it? Whereas they might actually get to a point where they feel okay with it, or it's manageable. Maybe not completely comfortable, but it's manageable, and that's almost part of the real world as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess it's like you were saying, sort of, it can be used as a bit of a crutch. There are benefits to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've said, haven't we, that, would really love to go to Disneyland, for example, and Disneyland's like a massive, big, busy place, and we've thought that perhaps maybe that might be an opportunity where, or a circumstance where maybe we would use them, because he'll just be like so super happy to see all the characters and all like the imagery and everything, and the sound of roller coasters, and I suppose like 100 people screaming as they go past you. I mean, I hear that and I'm like, ugh. So we thought about using it for that, haven't we? But
yeah, and the fact that when you have got ear defenders, you've got two hands. We've taken him to a museum before, and I think that was the very first time that I really thought, oh, ear defenders would have actually been super beneficial, because it was quite dark, it was big, the noises were really echoey, but there was loads of activities to do, with your hands. And I remember like thinking, well, if he had ear defenders on at that time, he probably would have been way less bothered about the sounds and been able to enjoy the activities, whereas I don't think he managed to get really to enjoy the activities fully, because most of the time his hands were being used to cover his ears. So there are definitely pros and cons to ear defenders. I don't actually know what the answer is, I don't actually know if the pros outweigh the cons or vice versa. I think my personal opinion on it, I mean, it all depends on the child, but I think I would more or less opt to avoid it if you can, and maybe just use them in the situations like we've said where there are way more benefits, rather than just getting them comfortable with it and sort of using it as a day-to-day thing, but more as if you're in an environment that is completely different that you wouldn't normally do, like, a theme park, a zoo, a museum. Maybe then to opt more to use them, but I think as a regular thing, I think I wouldn't want to do that.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think I would say the same. I think I'd just be pro not use them where you can. And it's also just helping them, for when they get older and they grow up. It's just way more practical, isn't it? And, even from safety, you use your hearing for safety for cars, other people.
I didn't think about
anything
that.
else, traffic, Yeah, I think if you can, I think I would try and avoid using them. Speaking of theme parks, actually, hands down, theme parks are probably our best holiday experiences we have with our family. It just seems to cater to everybody really well. Something really interesting and useful for our UK listeners is there's something you can get called a ride access pass, which we got to go to Blackpool Pleasure Beach and Alton Towers, which are both big theme parks in the UK. And essentially you can apply for this ride access pass and it allows you to skip the queue. So I couldn't imagine trying to stand with our young kids, regardless of the fact that our son is on the autistic spectrum. Try to stand in a queue that could be for up to an hour for a ride is just would just be really difficult. So obviously the way that you apply is there's an email address which you can drop in the link below and the website to help you out. And you just have to send some evidence across, like a diagnosis report or something similar, to show that you have someone eligible to get the pass, and then you can take it with you and use it. And it was awesome.
It was really, really good. It was so helpful, and the process was quite easy. And we did it all quite last minute, so I'm not recommending doing this. But we didn't think we would get the pass in time, because we did it like within a couple of days. We had applied for it because it was a last minute trip that we were taking. And I thought there's no way, because normally I think it was like a 2-week wait or something. But customer service team were really helpful, managed to get all the information to them, and they managed to get us the pass like that day. Like, honestly, that was really helpful as well. So yeah, go check it out if you're planning on any theme parks, which I'm assuming people will start doing now because the weather should be changing. Maybe not here in Scotland, but everywhere else, I'm assuming it's changing. Heck.
Can I talk about something really funny about that, actually? In the UK, you obviously have the BBC that run a channel for kids. It's called CBBC, or they do one for like preschool kids, which is called CBeebies. And on CBeebies, there used to be a programme which all the kids sort of probably, 20 years plus will remember, a programme called Balamory, which is a programme based in Scotland, and you have the stories, they have all these characters in these lovely different coloured houses in this quaint little...
Are you not even going to sing the theme tune?
Oh,
Balamory. Come on, I was like waiting for you. I was like thinking, don't go explain it without singing the theme tune. It's a right banger.
Yeah, so go and look it up on YouTube. Something that proper made me laugh since we moved up to Scotland was at the start of each episode, you go and see Miss Hooley, who is the nursery teacher, and she welcomes a bunch of kids in and who do activities in the episode. Anyway, she gets in, she's all super chirpy. She goes to the weather machine and she says, "Oh, what's the weather like today?" And she's got this machine and it's got 6 different symbols on. No word of a lie, only one is good and all the rest are bad. Sunny, and it's like wind, rain,
fog.
Storm, fog, hail. Those poor little Scottish kids, eh?
Only in Scotland. Right, I'm telling you now. I've never known a place rain so much, and I know everyone makes jokes and comments saying that it rains a lot in Scotland, but apparently, according to the farmers around here, this has been the wettest winter ever that they've ever known. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that that's not the same next year or the year after or however many years we're here, because it has been awful and I don't want to deal with it anymore. No more rain. I get that there's benefits of rain and I will go out in rain, but give me some sun. My skin needs it. I've got a vitamin D deficiency. Bring me the sun now, please.
That's funny, you do say you need to warm your bones, to quote Alex.
I feel it. I literally feel it. If I do not get some proper heat on my skin, it needs to be more than that. It needs to literally enter my soul, and then I'll feel okay. But we've not gotten that here. Like, if we're in the house, I need the house. The temperature needs to be about 26, and then I'm all good.
Yeah, let's not get started on thermostat wars. Something as well that's been on my mind recently is, how do you manage the dinner table with people on the spectrum?
Yeah.
So our son is a 50-50 table, and we'll all sit around the table and he's just kind of up and down, like coming off his chair, taking a bit of food into the front room, then coming back, and then, disappearing, reading a book, and then coming back. And there's part of me that I would obviously really love for him to just sit down and be with us that whole time, but it's how much do you push it?
Yeah, I don't think it bothers us. Because part of me is like, the difference is he likes to sit somewhere where he can very easily sort of come in and out. So like we've got a bench, but he just way preferred. And even at school, it's so funny at school, I think he sits at the head of the table all the time.
Just wants to be the king.
He just knows where it's at. But I think it's just so he can get in and out quite easily. And part of me thinks I'd rather him doing that and actually eating fine, because another element alongside that is fussy eaters, which I think everyone knows kids can be fussy eaters. And if he's happy to eat whatever he's eating, but he's just, plodding along sort of back and forth, I'm not bothered. It's just it's difficult, isn't it? Because sometimes you feel like you've got one lot of rules for one child, and then you've got another lot of rules for another child. And I think that's the more challenging part, because we know our 3-year-old can sit and eat at the table, and she doesn't really need to move or fidget, during that time. But he struggles with that. He likes eating standing up. Like he likes, doesn't he?
Maybe we should just have like a breakfast bar instead.
Hey, that's a good idea.
That would suit me, because I feel like furniture is always 6 inches too small.
But they've mentioned that at school as well. Like, I think when he does activities, he just prefers stand up. Not really a big deal, is it?
It's not so bad at home, but like when we've been out to McDonald's. Careful.
Yeah, because it's just because that's so busy, isn't it?
Oh, McDonald's, it feels like you sat on each other's knees.
I liked it at McDonald's when they had those boards up. During COVID.
Remember when McDonald's was red and it wasn't like green? It was like red and yellow and like super garish.
Wait, is it green?
Yeah, it's like the colour palette's all green, isn't it?
Do you mean on the inside?
I remember, because my local McDonald's changed when I was like, 10. And I was like, oh, rude.
Where is it green?
On the outside.
Oh, it is like a dark green, isn't it? Oh, it's like my sweatshirt. But when I think about McDonald's, I don't think of green. I think of yellow. You should think of the sign, don't you? That's yellow, which to me is like it's not really changed, but
It obviously really impacted me when I was a child.
obviously.
Hey, it's like them changing all the toys to cardboard paper toys.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Come on.
They're just rubbish.
Come
Like
on.
I remember getting
Go on.
before I went on holiday. So before we went on the annual family holiday, and we had that long car journey. I saved up McDonald's toys because there were these little handheld, like almost Tamagotchi-like Sonic games, and it was just a mini game on each one.
Oh my
Do you remember that?
gosh.
And it was a game. Whereas now it's like get a pack of Uno cards, and you know what kids do with that? Open, pour on the floor, spread, done.
That's it. And I always end up in the fire bin all the time. And the cat, it's not even like they break so easily.
Come on, Mackies.
Up your game. Yeah, the toys used to be so good. And how does that work? Happy Meals used to be cheaper and toys used to be better. Sort yourselves out.
Silly Maccadees. We were talking about toys in cereal as well the other day. Remember when you used to get toys in cereal?
Yeah, but that wasn't very often. I felt that was more like I thought that was more like American type cereal.
No.
The only one I knew that did that was Lucky Charms. I didn't know there was any in the UK that did that.
Yeah, I used to get them as a kid, and the whole
Which
thing
one?
was you would pour it out the box, and whoever's bowl it dropped into got the toy. So obviously you'd end up with like this bowl with like this pile like
To try and-
overflowing. Come on, toy, come on,
Try and get the toy. What cereal? Do you remember what cereal that was?
like Cocoa Pops and stuff like that.
What? Cocoa Pops used to have toys?
I think so, yeah. I remember getting the bag out as well. You know, it's got that plastic bag inside. You know, when no one's looking. Pull the bag out and put my hand right down inside. You know, just rub my arm and juice all over everybody else's cereal. Pull the toy out. Oh, everyone, the toy dropped in my bowl. Back when life was good, eh?
Do we sound old?
I love seeing those videos that are like 90s kids will remember this, and it'll like show
I do
like all
like
sorts
those.
of like old programs and things that you used to watch. Or I saw one the other day. It's like what 90s kids did when they were bored, and it showed like kids with elastic bands and bits of paper. They twang at people, stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I was a very good boy.
I can't actually imagine you doing that anyway. Did you? Oh, I married a naughty boy.
I remember spitballing out of a car. How gross is that? What a little scumbag I was.
Oh, I'd never do that. No.
Yes.
I'm a lady from Rochdale.
I remember doing it with one friend, and what was always so funny is I remember multiple times doing stuff like that. Like his mum would take us out and we'd just like dot the car with spitballs, and his mum would come back. Obviously, we'd both been doing it because it's not your parent. Your friend gets absolutely leathered and told off, and I'm just sat there like, oops. Do you not remember doing that, going to a friend's house? You both did something a bit naughty, and your friend just gets all the blame because the other parent doesn't want to be like, oh, I knew as well.
No, because I was good.
How is this conversation turned out to me being a rebel and you not?
I don't know.
How many detentions did I have at school, Alex? One class detention. One plonker that couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, but that's not even a real detention. That's because of someone else anyway.
You know, when teachers are like, right, I'm going to count down from 3. When I get to 1, you're all staying in behind at lunch. 3, 2, 1. Oh, you're all staying in. All right, mate, calm down.
I really had class detentions actually. So, important topic, which I think people might struggle with, but on and off on social media recently, all I've been seeing is pro-life, pro-choice. Now, what does that even mean? What does it mean, you ask? So, people, I mean, a lot of this seems to be a debate within the United States, but this is also a debate within the UK.
In the US, there's been legislative changes around abortion, so abortion has been ruled out, I believe. It's been deemed illegal in many of the states in the US.
Wait, it's been deemed legal or illegal?
Illegal.
Oh, but I don't know how many states. I've seen one where they spoke about Arizona.
Overturning the ruling of Roe versus Wade case that was, I think, in the 60s.
You know more of the information than I guess I do, don't you? On social media, back and forth, I've been seeing the whole concept of are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? And the whole debate of when is life considered life? When is a baby considered a human, I guess? Is it after the child, straight after the child is conceived, or is it after they're born and actually enter the world? So they're no longer living in their mother's womb. I don't even really know how that's a debate. Surely, scientifically, once that child is conceived, that's a child, that's a human. What else is it? If we don't consider it a human, what?
It's a really deep discussion and deep debate, isn't it? I mean, one that we can touch on is, when, as you said, when does life start? And it's so difficult to mess with the definition if you go beyond when the child is conceived, because then we start talking about things, but when the heartbeat, because when someone dies, their heart stops. So when it starts, is that life? And then you'll have people that might say, it's when the baby's viable and can live outside the womb on their own. No baby can live outside on the womb on their own, can they? They all need help and support. And does that mean disabled children are not viable because perhaps they need even more care? Could it be children born prematurely? Could it, it's all sorts of things. Is it when the brain develops? Is it when they have feelings? Is it when they recognise voice? It just becomes so muddy. And I think you just end up twisting yourself in knots trying to justify it either way.
Well, as I've seen quite a few of these posts on social media, I've come across a non-profitable organisation called Live Action. And I was watching some of their videos on their Instagram page. And if you want some genuine information about, to be honest, a lot of it is their thoughts on abortion, but I think they basically made an educational film of a baby developing within the womb, and they've been trying to get it, I guess, so it's in the actual educational system. Now, I think in Tennessee, they will play it in the schools in Tennessee. I think some laws come to it, but But I guess that's the whole thing as well, isn't it? It's like, what are you teaching children then? How are you teaching children? If there's that whole blurry thing of when is life, well, how do you accurately teach that to children? But anyway, there's something, I was reading some of their posts. Now I'm going to read this because I thought this was actually really, really good. We all believe a premature baby lying in hospital incubator deserves to live. Should a baby the exact same age deserve to die just because she's in her mother? Life is a human right regardless of the person's location. Does that not just explain things as accurate as I think I could? That is like my thoughts was pretty much in that post.
Yeah, because I think in reality it boils down to whether or not people are wanting the child. I think I've heard it said, I think everyone accepts that abortion is wrong, but then it's what do you do with that when somebody doesn't want a child? When we talk about the child actually being viable and being able to survive and being alive. When, I'll probably speculate and say, I think eventually we're going to figure out a way to have a womb outside of a human body. They've done it with a sheep. I think you can do it with, a chicken doesn't need its mother, does it, to be in an incubator? It's probably going to happen eventually. Mm-hmm. So it becomes, to me, it's whether or not the parents will to have the child or not, which I think is really sad. I think another post that you showed me that they did was talking about people saying that they don't feel ready to have kids, and I, in my head, I started on the line of, well, you've already made your choice by not being careful using contraception appropriately. You've already made your choice. But they spoke about how, well, no parent ever feels ready to have their child. Nobody's 100%, okay and like ready to have kids and fully understand what's going to go on. We didn't, did we?
No.
I didn't. I didn't feel like extremely ready, but I was ready to throw my hat into the ring and give it a go. And I think you grow from having your kids. You learn how to have kids when you have the experience of having kids. I think we've said it on the podcast before, you learn in the doing, don't you? It's one thing to read about in books or study about what having children is like, but actually having kids is, it's a deeper, more rewarding experience than something you can read or watch about. So, of course, no one's going to feel completely ready, but that's part of the adventure.
Yeah, it's just part of the experience, isn't it? We've had this conversation before now. There's a lecture, I think, given by Jordan Peterson. He basically throws out the question of, should everything wrong be illegal? And I know you've said before that's a very it's a very good question. I think it's quite a unique question. It's not something that I'd necessarily thought about until hearing it from him. And this is probably one of those times, isn't it, where you would say, well, if we think it's wrong, then should it be illegal? Should it not be accessible at all? But something that I do think is that it shouldn't be as easily accessible as it is. If you are making the decision to end the life of a human, and now people debate and say it's not a human, it is a human, just because it's in the mother's womb doesn't make it any less a human than what I am right now. Just because you're making that decision to end that child's life, why should you be able to do that so easily? It's like they made the point. So I watched an interview, and it was Pearl Davis was in it actually. And I can't remember the other women that were in it, but she made the point of, you know, if someone had given birth at so many weeks pregnant and then gone and thrown that baby off a bridge, there'd be a massive upheaval. Like, how wrong is that? But then how is it okay for someone to end the life of that baby up until, I can't remember what it is here, was it 20 something?
It's 26 weeks, isn't it? The other thing that's been on the news, I think it was on the news a couple of months ago here in the UK, there was a UK MP that was campaigning to have the rules changed on abortion for kids with Down syndrome. So here in the UK, as we've said, I think you can abort a child up to 26 weeks legally, but then you can abort a child who has Down syndrome up to full term.
How does that make sense? How is that fair?
What are we saying?
Who's defining that as well? Who's defining that their life is less valuable than anyone else's life? How is that even something that is within this world? That's so wrong.
Yeah, something that's so blatantly saying that their life is valued less because of they have a certain condition.
I think the hardest part that I find is that I look at our children, and at one point they were in my tummy. They were cooking away in my womb. Imagine if we had chosen to go down that road.
That it's so important for people to make that choice before they even get there. So there's a choice that's been made to get to being pregnant.
I know whenever the topic of abortion is in play, people always make the comments about rape and incest. And if you actually look at the statistic, the percentage of that is actually so incredibly low in comparison to how many people choose to abort for the sake of choosing to abort. Like they either don't want the baby, they're not in the right position to have the baby at the minute, or whatever the reasoning might be. It's just an elective abortion, and that percentage is so much higher. It's like 90 something percent is within that in comparison to rape or incest. And we had seen a video, and this was something that came up on my social media. That's how I managed to see live action, because they were commenting on the video. Now, there was a lady who, do you know what? Even just talking about it now, it just makes me feel sick. So I just think about that video and how disturbed this poor lady is. She shows a picture of a pregnancy test. She's crying her eyes out, whatever. She's bawling her eyes out, and she says, "Guys, I can't believe it." And then she shows the pregnancy test, and the pregnancy test positive, and she's like, "What am I gonna do?" And then she cuts, and you see that actually she's pretending, and she's laughing, hysterically laughing. Somewhat, I would say it sounded and it looked evil, laughing and saying, "Haha, just kidding, I've already booked the appointment." And then she says something like, "I am what conservatives fear." And I'm like, do you know what? Oh, I can't even talk about it. The fact that someone can be so cruel and so naive at the thought that you can actually take the life of someone else. That is your son or daughter, and you are laughing at the fact that you have scheduled an appointment to take their life. For what? For what? The start of that video, you're playing into it, the whole fact that you're playing into the part of people might actually take a pregnancy test, and genuinely the first thing that comes to their head is, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And they may be crying and they might feel sad about it because it doesn't go however people, would normally see it going, let's just say. And then the fact that you're mocking that and you're making fun of that, how do you even think that that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that level of it. Then to go a step further and share that on TikTok, share that on a platform, just for the sake of what? More followers? Like why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
How can people not understand the value of God's creation and the value of life? Something that I thought of recently when we were actually using the drone, and I know I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, was that this drone is so high up and we are so small. And I remember the thought crossed my mind of, we seem so insignificant, from such a distance. Like, what's even the point of us? But if you think about the value that we hold in the eyes of Heavenly Father, I can't even begin to even comprehend how much love he must feel for us and how much he actually values us. We've been watching The Chosen, and something that guy that plays Jesus, something that he says is that God provides a way for the birds in the sky, and are you saying like how much is your value in comparison to theirs? And then to think that there's even a debate on pro-life or pro-choice, I don't agree with it. I don't even agree that even should be a debate. I think people should actually come to the conclusion that abortion is murder. That is what it is.
There's a deeper, wider subject topic, isn't there, as to perhaps the level behind abortion of how have we got to this place where so many abortions do occur. Why is that the case?
But
how have we got here?
That's what I'm saying. A, it's acceptable, and B, if you say that you're against it, you're a bad person because you're, my body, my right. Well, then what about that child's body? So why is it that they don't have a right because they don't have a voice yet? How is that fair? That's like saying, someone that can't speak has less rights than me because I can speak. That's not true. They've got the same level of rights. And that is still a body that's inside of you. It's a really hard topic to discuss. And I didn't realise how passionately I felt against it until probably more recently when I've been looking more into it.
Well, babies are just so precious. There's a reverence for life, isn't there? I mean, since we've had animals, I think I've developed a greater reverence for life and appreciation of it. I mean, obviously, many of us are already tapped into the food chain of the process of growing of animals for consumption. And it's interesting now that we have animals that, how much of an active part we're already playing in the slaughtering of animals. And think about the time when we've had dogs run onto the land and catch a chicken, and I've not been able to get there before the dogs, had a great time. And I've had to euthanize a hen that was just on her way out to put her out of her misery. And I remember laying her down and she'd had her eyes closed, and I just remember actually feeling a little bit sad, I feel like I'm growing to understand the utility of animals in that I want to just be grateful for the purpose they serve, which is to feed my family. But I think the appreciation I have for them, and I feel this God-given need to appreciate them and to thank them for their role in supporting and helping us. So this hen's been laying eggs for us, and I wasn't able in this circumstance to stop a dog getting on, and fair dues, what's a dog going to do when it sees a hen? But it just made me feel sad to see her that was the way that she went, and I couldn't have shown her greater appreciation by helping her ride out the rest of her life a bit more comfortably. But I'm talking about a chicken here, and 10,000 chickens don't have the value of a human being. So I just pray that people will have a reverence for life and will be able to feel the Spirit testify to them of how precious God's children are to them, because we are all precious to him, and he loves us so much, and he loves you, he loves me, he loves Alex, and each one of his children he loves as much as the next. And it's important for us to recognise how important we are as individuals. And we hear the world talk about individualism nowadays, how important it is for the individual to have rights. What about literally the most vulnerable people on the planet, which are small babies?
This is probably something that I think we have mentioned before, but I think it is so important to actually have times to stop and to ponder and to think about things. Like the fact of abortion, you know, the media will throw at you pro-choice, 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 and that's pretty much what's going to be getting drilled into your brain. But if you actually stop and really, really think, I think deep down people will come to the conclusion that after being conceived, that baby has a life and has value to life and has come from God, and abortion is wrong. I would be quite surprised if you sat and pondered and prayed about it and still came to the conclusion that abortion is right. And I know we've said before, haven't we, that I think people really as a whole will agree that abortion is wrong, but I don't know if I fully believe that because of how many debates are happening within the world today of this whole thing of my body, my choice, pro-choice. I'll be surprised if you don't come to that conclusion after really just being still and just thinking about it. And I know that as you do that, if you do pray about it, that you'll gain a testimony that life has a value, life is important, and the taking of someone else's life it's not God's will. It's not God's will. There was one more quote actually that I saw, and I remember thinking, oh, I should share that. And it says this is by someone called Alexa Penavega. She seems like she's a celebrity, to be honest, but I can't say I actually know her. She's put, I honestly believe that you either believe in life as a whole and you see babies, whether they are in the womb or outside of the womb, as life, or you don't. And once life begins, that is a whole baby. That is a beautiful life, and for me, I will do whatever it takes to protect that. And I just thought that was actually really powerful as well. You see life as life and you see a baby as a baby, and there should be no difference between an unborn baby in the womb of a mother and a baby that has been born and has a mother on that side. There should be no difference between the two. And it's actually a shame that it's been separated.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. It's been enjoyable to be with you tonight, talk about some interesting stuff, and pray for your success and Godspeed, and we'll see you again soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.